First, thank you so much for writing your book. I have a comment and then a question.
Yes, please.
My comment is that you said you've given up on the left, and I see where you're coming from. But I don't think as a professor, I don't think we should give up on left-leaning youngsters.
Agreed.
And in particular, the non-left and all of us members of the audience who are non-left should find better ways to engage with them. On that note, I think you've really done a great job of getting youngsters to move away from binge-watching Game of Thrones to binge-watching your lectures. So my question to you is, how do we translate this momentum into something bigger? And how do we, go from being, go to being a democracy that's for dharma, of dharma, and by dharma? So you've spoken about freeing Hindu temples, truthifying history, and all of these are policy changes. They take time, they're slow.
Correct.
What can we, the people who are sitting here who believe in the cause, what can we do? Do you have any suggestions?
Very clear suggestions which I offered to a 10-year-old in California 2 years ago. And I'll explain why it's very, very critical. Start with, I think, 3 or 4 aspects. Since I've benefited from these suggestions, I'm in some position to say this with confidence. But before that, I completely agree with your first point. I am not giving up on the youngsters on the left. And when I mean the left, I mean hardened, incorrigible, insufferable left, which takes a certain degree of entrenchment of position, which comes with age, right? You're beyond 30 or beyond 35 and you've decided to invest your ego into this particular issue as opposed to your mind, then that's a person I have no interest in dealing with. That's a person I'm interested in pummeling in an argument, not convincing him. I don't wish to convince you or persuade you. I will only defeat you in an argument, period. 100%. There is no point in trying to convince such people. You only tell them, you understand only this language. It's either here or there. Come here, we will talk. Period. But you have to engage with the youngsters. 100%. Because it's such a huge demographic. And from the point of view of the fact that this demographic is so vulnerable, especially through the education system, you cannot afford to give up on them. So I'm with you. Coming to the realistic suggestions. Put yourself in the shoes of a person who has a workaday life and who does not have the ability to pursue big-time causes at a macro level. What can that person do? Basic issues. One, what is it that I've started with in the book? Language, semantics, linguistics. So learn your mother tongue at the very least. Equip yourself with knowledge of your own literature at the very least. I've given this unpopular example before. I don't see why it should be unpopular. In fact, it's a backhanded compliment, so I'll repeat it. I challenge anyone to speak in Kannada with the same fluency as Asaduddin Owaisi speaks in Urdu. If you can't, he is doing something right which you aren't. Period. So start with the language. That's one. Second, I am making the point that if you are not in a position to contribute to the free temple movement at the macro policy level, what is it that you can do? 2 things. In fact, 3 things. I want to be able to see that a person walking on the street is a Hindu, which means whatever is the visible symbol must be there. It starts with that, 100%. Why are visible symbols part of core tenets of other religions? Because it becomes a part of your habit, a part of your second nature, and you will not think and talk about your religion at, let's say, at some esoteric level as if you're talking of a third party. You won't talk of it as if it's a stranger. You need to be able to connect with it. And therefore, without practice, there is no logic, and without logic, there's no practice. Both have to go hand in hand. You need to know what is it that you're fighting for on social media. And if you don't even practice it on a daily basis in the simplest of forms, what on earth are you fighting for? I don't even understand. Makes no sense. Then you're not fighting for the cause, you're fighting for your ego investment in the cause. Which is to say, I want to prove that I'm right on a particular topic, as opposed to saying I'm supporting something that is right. Okay? So a visible symbol is necessary. Third, the corollary from there is that take ownership of at least the local temples. Why is everybody sitting in some remote part of the country and constantly think of Jagannath Puri and Tirupati but not the local temple? Is this temple under any less state control compared to Tirupati? No, it's not. This is the temple which shouldn't be under state control, because if at all there are some policy justifications for the state being present in a macro institution and a mega institution which could have security issues, what is its justification for being in the street temple? I don't understand. What money are they going to make? What corruption are you talking about, and who are you to talk about corruption? You have no moral authority. The Indian state has never had moral authority to speak on corruption in the last 70 years. So who are you to talk about corruption? At least if it's corrupt, it's someone from my community eating it, as opposed to you taking money and giving it to some other community. So I am clear about the fact that it starts with this, then you go to the next level, which is what? Do not reduce any of your festivals to mere celebratory activities. Explain the significance. Do something about it. None of this is going to be possible, because at the end of the day, when it's a nuclear family and the joint family system is broken, then what is it that you're looking at? So what is human psychology at play here? It is the joint family that provides an extended support system that has been done away with now, thanks to our own insistence on nuclear families. Somehow that was meant to be the progressive way, done. Okay, kya progress hua, dekh lenge. Second, if this setup is gone, then you still need to have some connection with a larger ecosystem which reinforces your identity, and therefore go back to your basic sampradayas. I can't think of most Hindu families which have not had a traditional guru or a traditional matha or a traditional institution that they've been connected with in one way or the other. To me, it doesn't make a difference whether it's Brahminical or non-Brahminical. It honestly doesn't make a difference. As long as it's a traditional sampradaya, it's a traditional sampradaya. For me, traditional is not Brahminical. Traditional is Hindu, period. Therefore, go back to those institutions. Two things come out of it. You don't feel alone when you're trying to bring up a young child and trying to instill values in it, and when you don't know how is this child going to deal with the rest of the world, is he going to be or is she going to be the misfit? But when you realize that there are others, that fear comes down to a significant extent. And you also end up strengthening that particular institution, because such institutions survive on following patronage and numbers. And when the heads of such institutions are in a position to command greater respect from their following, they will be in a much better position to talk to the politicians, saying, you can keep playing politics, but don't keep playing politics with our institutions. Because they will derive confidence from the fact that the people are backing them. That is what, let's say, the so-called godmen of other institutions and other faith systems bank on. The existence of a ground support base. Tell me which of these things that I've just suggested is beyond the realm of reasonableness and practicability. I don't think it is. These are plain and simple basics. Once you're in a position to achieve this, the immediate effect that you're looking at is an enhanced attachment to your culture and a better awareness of your own institutions. So the next time when someone says, it is in your institutions there is more corruption, not in our institutions, you can actually tell them, what are you talking about? Our institutions are corrupt today largely because of entrenchment of the state. That is a fact. Because the state has an incentive to constantly attract crowds at the expense of dharma, tradition, sampradaya, ritual, practice, whatever. And therefore they will do whatever it takes to create revenue streams, ports of revenue. For them, these institutions are nothing but ports of revenue. That's it. Therefore, you will be in a much better position to argue. Nothing that I have said in the last 5.5 years, ever since I started speaking on the subject in September 2016, is beyond, it's not something that requires a 120 plus IQ or 160 plus IQ. It's plain and simple logic based on the ground realities. If there is a payment-based darshan queue system, who benefits from this? First, the person who controls the affairs of the institution benefits from this. Who is the person who is controlling the secular aspects, which is to say the monetary and fiscal aspects of the institution? It is the state. So why is my community taking the rap on its knuckle when the state should be held responsible for this? Why is my community, my faith and my institution being constantly called a commercial institution when it is the state that is responsible for this? And it's constantly my community that is the favorite whipping boy of everyone who says Hinduism is all about money, wherever you go it's all about money. Is that the case? If that is the case, it is in other faith systems that there is a systematic, organic way of collecting money on a monthly basis. 10% has to be given, whether it's a church or a mosque. It's not my temple that's doing this from everyone, right? So that takes us to the next step. There is an obligation and a top-down imposition. I am saying those who are serious about this, park 10% of your revenue. Use it to support the causes which you believe are advancing the cause of dharma. If you cannot be a Rana Pratap, at least be a Bhamasha is something that I've said umpteen number of times. So if you cannot be in the line of fire, at least support those who are in the line of fire in one way or the other. And therefore, monetary support is the most important way of doing that. So 10 to 15% of your income does not belong to you, is your self-imposed restraint. Do that. 5. Very, very dangerous suggestion. Hinduism is not a pacifist religion. Hinduism is not a religion of cowards. Hinduism does not fear force. Therefore, revival of the Kshatriya spirit is critical. 100% critical. If you constantly think of it as the dirty job, then all you're going to be left with is a small island surrounded by a gutter. Let's see who's going to do the dirty job then. The state under any government cannot do this, and certainly cannot do this efficiently. Which means the Hindu community must slowly start looking at self-sufficient enclaves, which are equipped to protect themselves. Several states in this country have already shown that the existence of the state apparatus is not an advantage. It has actually turned to be a liability for Hindus when they want to protect themselves. So, do not use the Gita to teach pacifism to your kids. Teach the Gita to teach Kshatriya to your kids. The Gita is not meant to be a post-retirement Katha Kalakshepam book where people get together for satsangas and test each other's memories. Do you know the shloka? Do you know that shloka? Oh, that goes on. Is that what it was meant for? Arey, what have you understood, man? So, grasp the saransh and apply. All of these are doable. None of these require state support. None of the things that I've said so far require state support. Now, despite this, if you don't wish to do it, well, you have just signed away your destiny as a civilization. Then, Ram Naam Satya Hai. Next.